Hello, and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Mahesh Kumar, Chief Marketing Officer at Acceldata, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Tiffany Perkins-Munn. Tiffany is the head of data analytics for connected commerce, payments, and digital wallets at JPMorgan Chase. Tiffany, welcome to the interview today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity, Mahesh.
Awesome. Tiffany, I first want to start with an aha moment in data that you've had in your career. Can you tell me a turning point in your career where you realize that data can actually be used in very different and powerful ways than it had been used in the past in your organization?
Yeah, sure. So this happened to me many years ago, actually, more than several. But when I was working for a firm called Ipsos, which was the second largest survey-based research firm in the country, it was headquartered in France at that time. We actually had a client who was Toys R Us. I don't know if you recall the Toys R Us that used to be on 42nd Street. And
Yes.
Toys R Us had noticed some interesting things about their customers. The typical customer in the middle of the day in a Toys R Us are mothers who come in with their children, typically in strollers. Some of them can walk, some of them can't, but it ends up being like a little bit of an outing for mothers and children and families. But they noticed that they were getting all of this traffic into the store, and the sales did not represent the traffic that they were getting into the store. So basically, they hired us to do an assessment to understand store sales, customer experience, traffic, what's happening in the store. And so we did, surveys at checkout. We did focus groups with groups of mothers and kids, both those who were Toys R Us clients and those who were just mothers and kids who may be looking for activities to do in the middle of the day. We actually did observational studies where we went into the Toys R Us so that we could see what was happening and what the pattern was. It was so incredibly interesting. People liked the product. People liked the sales team. People were having a good time in Toys R Us. They gave their children an opportunity to play around and just investigate new toys. And so when we put all the data together and did an assessment, do you want to know what was driving, why the store sales didn't match the actual activity that was happening in the store?
Yes, very curious.
Turns out that mothers and their children were leaving to go across the street to a fast food place to use the restroom because the restrooms were not clean enough in Toys R Us. And in their minds, they were saying to themselves, oh, I'll come back and, we'll finish our little play date after we run across the street to the restroom. And what was happening was that they actually were not coming back. They were across the street, they'd get over there, they'd never come back. So they never would actually finish the process of if they were going to buy something. So back then, Toys R Us actually shut down their stores based on this learning to renovate the restrooms so that the mothers and children who were there would have clean, if you go, babies, you have to put them on that. They have that thing that folds down and you lie your child on that. Definitely you want that to be uber clean, sanitized, always looking fresh and ready to use. And so they closed down the stores on 42nd Street anyway to renovate the bathroom so that it could be more appealing for the mothers and kids. And it was at that moment that I realized what data does, it doesn't just show you what's obvious and what's in front of you. It doesn't just verify what you already understand. It actually helps you to uncover the real underlying reasons for behaviors in ways that you never would have. Like if I had asked people, oh, what do you think it is? Very few people, if any, would have come up with the fact that, oh, it's our bathrooms. It just wouldn't have happened. But through the process of bringing these multiple methodologies of collecting and analyzing data together and going through the process of understanding what the comprehensive story is, we were able to uncover something very unusual and unique for our partner, which was Toys R Us, and that they were able to quickly remediate.
That is awesome. I think that's such a great story to kind of think about offline, uses of data. It's something that we don't do as much today.
That's right.
Everything is online and digital, and to kind of actually watch the traffic patterns and see, what the behavior patterns are of customers and finding the root cause and fixing it is a fantastic story. And switching gears a little bit, coming to today, you look at JPMorgan Chase, such an amazing financial institution. They touch so many people's lives in so many different ways, positive ways. Can we think about more around the human impact, right? That data innovation can have. A firm like JPMorgan Chase, was there, a moment where you saw data analytics really improve someone's financial experience or life, and a story that kind of made that impact very personal or touched you in a very different way?
Yeah, I think the idea of really having AI at your fingertips as you try to manage your wealth. So I think we think about when an individual who doesn't sit in a consumer bank, obviously, thinks about wealth, it tends to be something that is external to the way that they live their everyday lives. Right. So the process of me managing, maintaining, monitoring, growing my wealth, especially if I am someone who is living check to check, for instance, may not even come into my mind. It's just like something that exists over for other people. And even if you're not living check to check, the way that you might manage your money in a very comprehensive way is something that lives still not in the way that you think about your life on a day-to-day basis. And what I think AI has done, especially generative AI, is that it has brought all of that information to our fingertips, to everyone's fingertips, not just the people who live in data every day, who are running models, who are building AI agents, who are thinking about the underlying, LLM modeling structure. It's for everyday people, your sister who is a dentist who just opened her own practice, your daughter who is an influencer on some social media platform, the brother-in-law who is a mechanic and wants to start his own business, wants to venture out and start his own business. That's the beauty of what AI has done to bring everything. Like, you want to know, you're a mechanic, you want to be successful. How do you then start to build your business, your wealth in a way that helps you be more successful? And how do you think about the way that AI is incorporated into your daily life, into the way that you live now, into the other things that you do in life outside of that particular body of work? Like if you're a mechanic, for example, how do you then think about how to incorporate that into making yourself more successful, right? Mm-hmm. Building your own wealth. And what AI has done, which is very exciting, is that it has brought all of the capabilities of how we think about our wealth, how we think about our daily interactions, how we determine what success looks like for ourselves. It has brought all of that to our fingertips, to everyone's fingertips, mm-hmm. in a way that historically it's kind of sat with the experts. It's a complicated methodology. It's not something that just, it's not as simple as something that one would just sit around and understand, just in general conversation. So the sort of presentation of agents to us, we wake up in the morning, maybe we are asking, Siri what the weather's going to be. We have our GPS set for getting us around traffic jams as we go into work. We are building, presentations and writing papers and using AI in ways that will help us think more critically around topics. It's something that is being incorporated into every person's everyday life in ways that they had not yet considered. And so as a result, it is a much more tangible kind of capability. You know, machine learning never quite made it, that part of AI never quite made it to the sort of the public discourse because it's complicated. So the fact that you can sit down at a computer, type in a question, get an answer, is very meaningful across every single industry to lots of people's lives. And it really helps people live their lives differently, helps all people. That's what's exciting about it to me, is that it is at our fingertips. In fact, I wrote a book called, it's called Data Decoded. It's everything you need to know about AI, no technology degree required. And the purpose is to bring everything that's happening in AI to the fingertips of regular, everyday people, friends and family in our lives who want to understand how to utilize AI. It's coming. It's here. Don't fight it. It's here. How do you get in front of it? How do you use it to be more efficient in your life? And how do you use it to think about your own career and what you're doing in life and where is it headed? How do you get in front of it and know how to incorporate it to maximize the utilization of it in various aspects of your life?
That's awesome. Yeah. I think, when you talk about examples such as, financial management, individuals, businesses and such, and the use of generative AI to kind of get these things across to them, there is always, as a financial institution, facts are still very important. And, if you can kind of tap into some of your knowledge and experience writing this book, Data Decoded, can you tell us a little bit about how do you sort of view the role of facts and actual numbers, and specific information in the context of generative AI, right? How do you marry sort of the whole generative concepts with, the more traditional aspects of information that you retrieve and information that you process and analyze in your enterprise? Can you tell us a little bit more about that, if you don't mind?
Well, it's interesting that you say facts, right? Because as we know, the AI agent can hallucinate and can I've actually asked very interesting questions of the agent just to see how good it does with answering kind of obscure questions factually. And what I've discovered is that it gives you an answer, and it gives you that answer with great confidence. But the answer can sometimes be wrong. Excuse me. So this concept of human in the loop is a really important one. When you're thinking about prompt engineering, how you write the prompt, what you ask of the system, how you iterate on the ask, how you instruct the system, in fact, to ask you questions that will help it be more accurate, that will help it deliver the facts and not some speculation. I've actually asked AI before, can you tell me which of these, I've asked it for examples of something. And then I go back and I say, can you tell me which of these examples are accurate? And this are actually factual. And it has come back to me and said, oh, I'm sorry. Some of the examples I gave you were just speculative or made up examples. Here are some that actually have citations, right? So it will tell you that it has come up with some. You just have to understand how to utilize the system. It will tell you that it is made up or given you sample examples just to help you process the information, but that if you want actual citations for things, it can generate those as well. But I wouldn't say stop there, because actual citations are sometimes also missing. You can't find them there. It says it's a citation, but you're like, where on earth it lives, you don't know, because when you Google it, you can't actually find it. So there's a human in the loop quality to how we think about and incorporate AI and what we're doing and how we use it that I think is very, very important. It will always need to have the human in the loop. And as a result, it's just important that everyone get in front of how to use it, when to use it, how to use it most effectively, how we think about prompt engineering, the questions we're asking, how we pull out the facts, and then how we ultimately verify that it's accurate.
Awesome. Yeah, I think human in the loops obviously is very important. I heard a very interesting expression by an executive. I was listening to a speech and she talked about phases. of human in the loop, and then human on the loop, we sort of observing, and then human out of the loop, right? So it's not like straight, agentic doesn't necessarily mean humans completely out of the loop, but it's almost like gaining confidence in that system over time to the point where you can kind of take a
Right.
step back and
I like those. I like that. I like human in the loop, on the loop, out of the loop. I mean, agentic is a special situation, right? Because then things really become autonomous. So, we could talk about this later, but there are issues like privacy, what we're allowed to show consumers as a brand, what that looks like from a legal and compliance perspective, how much of it can be autonomous versus curated. So I think that agentic beckons a different set of questions that we need to answer in order to do it in a safe way.
Excellent. Let me close. For more interviews and insights, please visit cdomagazine.tech. Thank you.
Thank you.